one day you will realize something that changes everything. The people you worried about, the opinions that hurt you, the expectations that controlled you, most of them never deserved the power you gave them. Yet millions of people reach old age still carrying emotional burdens that were never theirs to carry. Buddhist wisdom teaches a different path, a path where rejection no longer wounds you, loneliness no longer frightens you, and life itself loses its power to disturb your peace. Tonight, discover the 5 powerful lessons that can help you detach so deeply in old age that nothing can hurt you anymore. 1. Stop making your peace depend on other people. One of the most important lessons a person can learn before reaching old age is that peace can never be safely placed in the hands of other people. Many people spend their entire lives believing that happiness comes from being loved, appreciated, remembered, respected, and included. They quietly build their emotional world around the actions of others. They feel happy when people call them. They feel valuable when people praise them. They feel secure when people stay close to them. At first, this seems normal. After all, human beings naturally seek connection. But as the years pass, life begins to reveal a difficult truth. People change. Children grow up and become busy with their own responsibilities. Friends move away. Relationships evolve. Some people who once promised to stay forever slowly become distant. Others who once depended on you no longer need your help. This is not always because they are bad people. It is simply the nature of life. Everyone is fighting their own battles, carrying their own worries, and walking their own path. The problem begins when your peace is tied to their behavior. When someone forgets to call, you feel rejected. When someone fails to appreciate your sacrifices, you feel hurt. When people do not treat you the way you expected, disappointment enters your heart. Little by little, your emotional well-being becomes controlled by circumstances you cannot control. Buddhist wisdom teaches that this is one of the deepest forms of attachment. It is not attachment to money. It is not attachment to possessions. It is attachment to expectations. You expect people to always understand you. You expect them to always remember your kindness. You expect them to always give back what you gave them. And when reality fails to match those expectations, suffering appears. The wise person eventually realizes that peace cannot be built upon something so unstable. Human beings are imperfect. Their moods change. Their priorities change. Their attention changes. If your happiness depends on something that constantly changes, your happiness will constantly disappear. This is why deep detachment becomes so valuable in old age. Detachment does not mean you stop loving people. It does not mean you stop caring. It does not mean you isolate yourself from the world. True detachment means you continue to love, but you stop making your emotional survival dependent on how others respond. You give kindness because kindness reflects your character, not because you expect repayment. You help people because helping is the right thing to do, not because you want recognition. You love others sincerely, but you understand that their choices belong to them. This understanding creates tremendous freedom. Imagine waking up every morning without needing anyone's approval to feel worthy. Imagine enjoying someone's company without fearing their absence. Imagine being grateful when people show love, but remaining peaceful even when they do not. That is strength. That is emotional maturity. That is freedom. As you grow older, one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is the ability to stand peacefully within your own heart. Let people come and go. Let opinions rise and fall. Let expectations dissolve. The more your peace depends on your own inner stability rather than the behavior of others, the more unshakable you become. And eventually, you reach a place where people's actions may affect your circumstances, but they no longer control your peace. That is the beginning of true detachment. That is the beginning of true freedom, and that is why the wisest elders are often the calmest people in the room. They have learned a lesson that many spend their entire lives missing. Peace was never supposed to come from other people. It was always meant to come from within. 2. Let go of the need to be understood. One of the most exhausting burdens many people carry throughout life is the constant need to be understood by everyone around them. It is a desire so common that most people never even question it. Deep down, you want people to see your heart correctly. You want them to understand your intentions. You want them to recognize your sacrifices, appreciate your struggles, and acknowledge the goodness you tried to bring into their lives. There is nothing wrong with wanting understanding. The problem begins when your peace becomes dependent upon it. As the years pass, life teaches a difficult lesson. No matter how honest you are, some people will misunderstand you. No matter how kind you are, some people will judge you unfairly. No matter how much you explain yourself, some people will continue believing whatever story they have already created in their minds. Many people suffer because they spend years fighting this reality. They replay conversations in their heads. They think about what they should have said. They imagine how they can finally make others understand. They explain themselves again and again. They defend their decisions. They try to correct every false assumption. Yet despite all their efforts, they remain frustrated because the understanding they seek never fully arrives. Buddhist wisdom teaches that much of this suffering comes from attachment. Not attachment to objects, not attachment to wealth, but attachment to people's opinions. The moment your inner peace depends upon how others perceive you, you hand them power over your emotional state. A single criticism can ruin your day. A misunderstanding can keep you awake at night. A false accusation can occupy your thoughts for weeks. You begin living inside other people's minds instead of your own. But there comes a point in life, especially in old age, when a person must ask an important question. How many years am I willing to spend chasing approval that may never come? The truth is that every person sees the world through the lens of their own experiences, fears, wounds, and beliefs. Some people misunderstand you because they lack information. Others misunderstand you because they only see a small part of your life. Some misunderstand you because they judge from their own pain, and some misunderstand you simply because they choose to. You cannot control any of these things. You cannot enter another person's mind and force clarity upon them. You cannot make everyone see what you see. You cannot guarantee that your truth will be accepted by everyone. The wise person eventually stops fighting this impossible battle. Instead of trying to control how they are perceived, they focus on how they live. Instead of constantly explaining themselves, they focus on their actions. Instead of seeking validation, they seek peace. This shift changes everything. Because when you no longer need everyone to understand you, a tremendous amount of emotional energy becomes available. Energy that was once wasted on arguments becomes available for reflection. Energy that was once spent defending yourself comes available for growth. Energy that was once consumed by resentment becomes available for peace. Think about how many conflicts continue simply because both sides desperately want to be understood. Each person is trying to prove their version of the story. Each person is trying to win. Each person is demanding recognition. But true wisdom often appears when you no longer feel the need to win every battle. Sometimes people will leave with the wrong impression of you. Let them. Sometimes people will believe things about you that are not true. Let them. Sometimes people will never fully understand your intentions. Let them. Their misunderstanding does not change your reality. Their opinion does not define your worth. Their judgment does not determine your value. A mountain remains a mountain, even if someone calls it a hill. The truth remains true even when it is questioned. The older and wiser you become, the more you realize that protecting your peace is often more important than protecting your image. This does not mean becoming passive. It does not mean allowing injustice. It means understanding that not every misunderstanding deserves your energy. Not every criticism deserves your attention. Not every accusation deserves a response. Sometimes silence is not weakness. Sometimes silence is strength. Sometimes silence is wisdom. The deepest form of confidence is not proving yourself to everyone. It is knowing who you are even when others do not. It is remaining calm when people doubt you. It is remaining kind when people judge you. It is remaining centered when people misunderstand you. This is the freedom that Buddhist teachings point toward. A freedom that comes when your self-worth is no longer tied to public approval. A freedom that comes when you stop carrying the impossible burden of controlling other people's perceptions. And perhaps one of the greatest blessings of old age is finally realizing that you do not need the entire world to understand you. You only need to understand yourself. When that realization settles deeply into your heart, something extraordinary happens. The endless need to explain begins to fade. The need for validation begins to fade. The fear of judgment begins to fade. And in its place comes a quiet strength, a calm confidence, and a deep inner peace that no opinion can disturb. That is true detachment. And once you reach that state, you become far more difficult to hurt, because your peace no longer depends on being understood by everyone around you. 3. Accept change before life forces you to. One of the greatest reasons people suffer as they grow older is not because life changes. It is because they spend years resisting the changes that life naturally brings. Deep down, most people want stability. They want things to remain familiar. They want the people they love to stay the same. They want their routines to stay the same. They want their bodies to stay strong. They want their circumstances to remain comfortable. But life has never made such a promise. Everything changes. The seasons change. The weather changes. The world changes. Relationships change. Health changes. Dreams change. And eventually, even the person staring back at you in the mirror changes. Yet despite this reality, many people continue fighting against the natural flow of life. They hold on to old versions of themselves. They hold on to old identities. They hold on to old expectations. And because they refuse to let go, they create unnecessary suffering. Buddhist wisdom teaches that change is not the problem. Attachment is the problem. The river flows because it accepts movement. The tree survives because it bends with the wind. Nature remains peaceful because it does not argue with reality. Human beings suffer because they often demand that reality behave differently than it does. Think about how much pain comes from saying things like, "This should not have happened. They should not have changed. My life was supposed to look different. I should still be who I was 20 years ago." These thoughts may seem harmless, but they create a silent war inside the mind. A war between what is and what you wish still existed. And every day you fight reality, reality wins. Not because reality is cruel, but because reality simply is. The wise person learns this lesson early. Instead of asking why things are changing, they begin learning how to move with change. They understand that every stage of life has its own purpose. Youth has its lessons. Middle age has its lessons. Old age has its lessons. Each season offers something valuable, but only if you stop comparing it to another season. Many people enter old age carrying the expectations of youth. They expect the same energy, the same opportunities, the same social attention, the same physical strength. And when reality does not cooperate, frustration appears. But imagine how different life becomes when you stop demanding that today look like yesterday. Imagine accepting each stage of life as it arrives. Imagine greeting change not as an enemy, but as a teacher. Because every change carries a lesson, every ending carries wisdom, every loss carries sight, every transition carries growth. The problem is that most people are so focused on what they lost that they never notice what they gained. As people age, they often lose speed but gain perspective. They lose certain abilities but gain understanding. They lose illusions but gain wisdom. They lose the need to impress others but gain freedom from unnecessary expectations. Yet, these gifts can only be seen by those willing to accept change. The person who constantly clings to the past remains trapped there. Their body may live in the present, but their mind remains imprisoned in yesterday. They keep comparing, they keep longing, they keep resisting. And because of this, they miss the beauty that still exists right in front of them. Buddhism teaches that impermanence is not something to fear. It is something to understand. Nothing lasts forever. Not success, not failure, not pleasure, not pain, not youth, not old age. Everything moves. Everything transforms. Everything eventually passes. When this truth is deeply understood, a remarkable shift occurs. Fear begins to lose its power. Because you stop expecting permanence from an impermanent world. You stop demanding certainty from an uncertain life. You stop expecting things to remain exactly as they are. And because your expectations become aligned with reality, suffering begins to decrease. This does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. There is a difference. You can appreciate a beautiful sunset without trying to stop the sun from setting. You can love people deeply without demanding that they never change. You can enjoy a moment without insisting that it lasts forever. This is the art of healthy detachment. To hold life gently rather than desperately. To appreciate without possessing. To experience without clinging. Many people believe that acceptance means giving up. But acceptance is not surrendering to defeat. Acceptance is surrendering to reality. It is recognizing what already exists instead of exhausting yourself fighting against it. A person who accepts change becomes emotionally resilient. When difficulties arrive, they adapt. When circumstances shift, they adjust. When life surprises them, they remain flexible. They do not break because they have stopped demanding that life follow their plans. This resilience becomes especially valuable in old age. Because aging itself is a lesson in impermanence. The body changes, the social circle changes, daily routines change, priorities change. The world changes, and the people who suffer least are often not the strongest physically. They are the strongest mentally. They are the ones who understand that life is movement, life is transformation, life is change. And fighting that truth only creates exhaustion. The deepest peace comes when you stop asking life to stay the same. The deepest peace comes when you trust yourself enough to adapt to whatever comes next. Because once you truly accept change, something extraordinary happens. You stop fearing the future. You stop grieving every ending. You stop resisting every transition. You begin flowing with life rather than fighting it. And when you reach that state, old age no longer feels like a loss. It becomes another chapter of wisdom, another season of growth, another opportunity to discover a deeper form of peace. The person who learns to accept change before life forces them to becomes incredibly difficult to hurt. Because they understand something most people spend their entire lives avoiding. Nothing stays the same. And that is exactly why every moment becomes precious, every lesson becomes valuable, and every stage of life becomes worthy of gratitude. 4. Detach. From what you cannot control, if there is one lesson that can instantly reduce a tremendous amount of suffering in old age, it is learning to detach from what you cannot control. Most people spend a large portion of their lives worrying about things that were never theirs to manage in the first place. They worry about other people's choices. They worry about what others think of them. They worry about the future. They worry about outcomes. They worry about situations that have not even happened yet. The mind becomes trapped in a cycle of endless control. It constantly asks, what if this goes wrong? What if they disappoint me? What if I lose something important? What if life does not go according to my plans? These questions may seem harmless, but over time they become a heavy burden. The strange thing is that many people do not even realize how much energy they are losing. Day after day, year after year, they carry problems that do not belong to them. They mentally fight battles that cannot be won. They attempt to control people who cannot be controlled. They attempt to predict futures that cannot be predicted. And as a result, their peace slowly disappears. Buddhist wisdom teaches that suffering often begins the moment we demand control over things that are naturally uncertain. Life has always been uncertain. The future has always been uncertain. Human beings have always been unpredictable. Nothing about this is new. What creates suffering is our refusal to accept it. Many people believe they would finally be peaceful if they could control everything around them. But the opposite is often true. The more you try to control life, the more anxious you become. Because life continuously reminds you that complete control is impossible. Consider how often people become upset because others fail to meet their expectations. They want family members to behave differently. They want friends to make better choices. They want society to change. They want the world to operate according to their preferences. And every time reality refuses to cooperate, frustration appears. The problem is not reality. The problem is attachment to control. The wise elder eventually discovers a liberating truth. There are only a few things that truly belong to you. Your thoughts, your actions, your attitude, your responses, your decisions. Everything else exists outside your authority. You may influence certain things. You may guide people. You may offer advice. You may make plans. But you cannot control the final outcome. Once this truth is understood, a tremendous amount of emotional weight begins to disappear. Imagine how peaceful life becomes when you stop trying to manage other people's opinions. No matter how kind you are, some people will criticize you. No matter how honest you are, some people will misunderstand you. No matter how much good you do, some people will focus only on your mistakes. You cannot control this, and the moment you stop trying, your mind becomes lighter. Imagine how peaceful life becomes when you stop trying to control how everyone feels about you. Many people exhaust themselves attempting to keep everyone happy. They say yes when they want to say no. They sacrifice their own well-being to avoid disappointing others. They spend years seeking approval. Yet even after all those efforts, someone remains unhappy. Someone remains critical. Someone remains dissatisfied. This is because human happiness is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to live honestly and compassionately. How others respond belongs to them. This understanding creates freedom. A freedom that many people never experience because they spend their entire lives carrying emotional responsibilities that were never theirs. Another area where people struggle is the future. The future has a unique ability to create anxiety. The mind constantly wants certainty. It wants guarantees. It wants promises. It wants reassurance that everything will be fine. But life rarely provides such guarantees, and so people worry. They imagine worst-case scenarios. They create problems in their minds long before any real problem exists. Sometimes they suffer for months over situations that never actually happen. Think about how much life is lost this way. Moments that could have been peaceful become consumed by fear. Days that could have been enjoyed become filled with worry. Years that could have been appreciated become overshadowed by imagined disasters. Buddhist teachings encourage a different approach. Instead of trying to control the future, focus on the present. Prepare wisely, act responsibly, do what you can, then let go. because beyond that point, anxiety adds nothing of value. Worry does not guarantee safety. Fear does not guarantee success. Obsessing does not guarantee control. The future will arrive whether you worry about it or not, and when it arrives, you will meet it with the same strength you have always carried. One of the greatest signs of wisdom in old age is knowing when to release the need to control outcomes. You plant the seed, you water the soil, you care for the garden, but you do not pull on the flowers to make them grow faster. You understand that certain processes unfold in their own time. Life works the same way. You do your part. Then you release your attachment to the result. This attitude transforms relationships. It transforms health challenges. It transforms financial difficulties. It transforms daily life. Because instead of constantly fighting reality, you begin cooperating with it. There is another truth that becomes especially important as people grow older. Not everything that happens requires a reaction. Many people spend years emotionally responding to every inconvenience, every disagreement, every disappointment. A rude comment ruins their day. A small setback destroys their mood. An unexpected problem steals their peace. But the deeply detached person understands something powerful. Not every event deserves access to your inner world. Not every difficulty deserves your emotional energy. Sometimes the wisest response is acceptance. Sometimes the wisest response is patience. Sometimes the wisest response is simply letting things pass. Like clouds moving across the sky. They arrive, they stay briefly, then they disappear. The person who chases every cloud becomes exhausted. The person who observes them calmly remains peaceful. This is the essence of detachment. Not indifference, not coldness, not emotional suppression. It is the ability to remain centered, even when life refuses to follow your plans. It is the ability to maintain inner stability while the outer world continues changing. As old age approaches, this lesson becomes increasingly valuable. The body may not always cooperate. Other people may not always cooperate. Circumstances may not always cooperate. Life may not always cooperate. But your response remains yours. Your attitude remains yours. Your peace remains yours. And that is where true power exists. The strongest people are not those who control everything around them. The strongest people are those who no longer need to. They have stopped fighting unwinnable battles. They have stopped arguing with reality. They have stopped demanding certainty from an uncertain world. Instead, they trust themselves. They trust life. They trust their ability to adapt. And because of that trust, they move through life with a calmness that cannot be shaken easily. When you finally detach from what you cannot control, something remarkable happens. Fear begins to loosen its grip. Anxiety begins to fade. Frustration begins to shrink. Your mind becomes quieter. Your heart becomes lighter. And for the first time, you begin experiencing the kind of peace that does not depend on circumstances. A peace that remains present whether things go your way or not. A peace that remains present whether people approve of you or not. A peace that remains present whether life unfolds according to your plans or not. That is true freedom. And in old age, few gifts are more valuable than a mind that has finally learned when to let go. 5. Learn to walk alone without feeling alone. Perhaps one of the greatest fears people carry into old age is not the fear of death, illness, or even financial hardship. It is the fear of being alone. Many people spend decades surrounded by noise, responsibilities, conversations, and constant activity. They become so accustomed to being needed by others that they never learn how to be comfortable with themselves. Their days are filled with work, family obligations, social interactions, and endless distractions. Because of this, they rarely have to face the quiet spaces within their own minds. But as the years pass, life naturally becomes quieter. Children build their own lives. Friends move away. Some relationships grow distant. Some loved ones leave this world. The house that once felt full becomes silent. The phone rings less often, the invitations become fewer. And suddenly a person finds themselves spending more time alone than ever before. This is the moment that reveals an important truth. Were you ever truly at peace with yourself? Or were you simply distracted from yourself? Many people mistake loneliness and aloneness as the same thing. But Buddhist wisdom teaches that they are completely different experiences. Loneliness is the feeling that something is missing. Aloneness is the realization that nothing is missing. Loneliness says, I need someone beside me before I can feel complete. Aloneness says, I am already complete, whether someone is beside me or not. This distinction changes everything. Because the suffering of loneliness does not come from being physically alone. It comes from believing that your happiness depends on another person's presence. Many people enter old age carrying this belief. They secretly believe that peace will come when someone visits more often, when more people pay attention to them, when someone understands them completely, when they receive more affection, when they are surrounded by company. But even when these things happen, the feeling often remains. Why? Because loneliness is not solved by filling the room, it is solved by filling the heart. A person can sit in a crowd gathering and feel deeply lonely. Another person can sit quietly by themselves and feel completely peaceful. The difference is not the environment. The difference is the relationship they have with themselves. One of the greatest gifts Buddhist teachings offer is the understanding that you must learn how to become your own companion. You must learn how to sit quietly without feeling abandoned. You must learn how to enjoy your own presence. You must learn how to listen to your own thoughts without fear. Most people spend their entire lives running from silence. The moment the room becomes quiet, they reach for a distraction, a television, a phone, a conversation, anything to avoid being alone with themselves. But silence is not the enemy. Silence is often the doorway to freedom. In silence, you begin hearing things that constant noise prevented you from noticing. You notice your fears, you notice your attachments, you notice your worries. You notice the stories you have been telling yourself for years. At first, this can feel uncomfortable. Many people avoid solitude because it forces them to face unresolved emotions, it forces them to face regrets, it forces them to face grief, it forces them to face themselves. But eventually something remarkable happens. The discomfort begins to fade, the fear begins to fade, and a new relationship begins to emerge. A relationship with your own inner world. You start discovering that your own company is not a punishment. It is a gift. You begin enjoying simple moments, a quiet morning, a cup of tea, the sound of rain against a window, the warmth of sunlight entering a room, the gentle movement of leaves in the wind. Things that once seemed ordinary suddenly become deeply meaningful. The world slows down, and because it slows down, you finally begin seeing it clearly. Many people spend their younger years chasing stimulation. More entertainment, more excitement, more attention, more approval, more distractions. But old age offers a different opportunity. An opportunity to discover peace rather than excitement, stillness rather than stimulation, depth rather than distraction. This shift is incredibly powerful, because once you learn how to enjoy your own company, you stop fearing abandonment. You stop fearing rejection. You stop fearing solitude. Why? Because the thing you once feared has become your friend. The person who can sit alone peacefully possesses a form of freedom that few people ever experience. Think about it. If your happiness depends on other people constantly being present, then your happiness remains fragile. It can disappear whenever someone leaves, whenever someone becomes busy, whenever someone changes. But if your happiness comes from within, then it travels with you everywhere. No one can take it away. No one can withhold it. No one can control it. This is why wise elders often appear calm, even when they spend long periods alone. They are not waiting for life to begin. They are already living it. They are not desperately seeking distraction. They are appreciating what is already here. They have discovered that peace does not arrive through constant activity. Peace arrives through acceptance. Another powerful truth is that learning to walk alone does not mean rejecting relationships. Buddhism does not teach isolation. It teaches freedom from dependence. There is a profoundness. A detached person still loves deeply. They still enjoy companionship. They still value friendships and family. But they no longer believe that another person is responsible for completing them. They no longer expect others to carry the burden of their happiness, because they have already found a source of stability within themselves. This makes their relationships healthier. Their love becomes less possessive. Their expectations become lighter. Their disappointments become fewer. Their gratitude becomes deeper. Instead of clinging to people, they appreciate them. Instead of fearing loss, they cherish the present moment. Instead of demanding permanence, they embrace impermanence. And because of this, they suffer far less. As old age approaches, one of the most important questions you can ask yourself is this: can I enjoy my own company? Sit quietly without needing constant stimulation? Can I spend time alone without feeling empty? Can I find peace without depending on someone else's presence? These questions matter because life eventually asks them whether you are ready or not. The people who answer them early suffer less later. The people who develop inner companionship become emotionally resilient. They remain steady when circumstances change. They remain calm when others leave. They remain peaceful even during seasons of solitude. Not because life became perfect, but because they stopped depending on perfection. Perhaps the deepest form of detachment is not letting go of possessions. It is not letting go of status. It is not even letting go of people. The deepest form of detachment is letting go of the belief that you need something outside yourself in order to be whole. The moment that belief disappears, an incredible freedom emerges. You stop chasing. You stop clinging. You stop fearing. You stop begging life to be different. Instead, you begin resting peacefully in the present moment. You begin appreciating what exists instead of mourning what does not. You begin understanding that peace was never hiding somewhere in the future. It was never waiting inside another person. It was never waiting inside a perfect circumstance. It was always available within you, waiting to be discovered, waiting beneath the noise, waiting beneath the fear, waiting beneath the endless search for something more. And when you finally discover that inner peace, something extraordinary happens. You can walk through life alone without feeling lonely. You can face change without fear. You can face silence without discomfort. You can face old age without regret, because you have found the one companion who will remain with you until your final breath, your own awakened, peaceful, and deeply content heart. That is true freedom. That is true strength. And that is why the person who learns to walk alone without feeling alone becomes almost impossible to hurt. They have found within themselves what they spent their entire lives searching for in the outside world. As life moves forward, remember this: true freedom is not found in controlling people. It is not found in holding on tighter. It is not found in forcing life to go your way. True freedom begins the moment you learn to let go. Let go of the need for approval. Let go of the fear of loneliness. Let go of the expectations that steal your peace. The older you become, the more precious your inner world becomes. Protect it, nurture it, guard it carefully, because when your peace comes from within, no rejection can break you, no loss can destroy you, and no change can take away your happiness. Walk gently through life, love deeply, but do not cling, care sincerely, but do not depend. And remember what Buddhist wisdom has taught for centuries. The strongest person is not the one who holds on to everything. The strongest person is the one who knows how to let go and remain at peace. If this message touched your heart, take a quiet moment today and ask yourself, what is one attachment I can finally release to make room for peace?